It's time to talk some high school football. Week 2 on the schedule here on Fox 23 Sports Director Nathan Thompson, along with the Tulsa World Sports Editor Barry Lewis. And we're going to go over, Barry, your top 5 games in the Tuesday edition of the Tulsa World. You can also get it on okprepsextra.com. Game number 1, I'm sure you didn't have to think real long and hard on this one to pick the number 1 game because we have the Backyard Bowl over at Union.
Well, this was an easy one. Well, relatively easy, although there's some really good 2 and 3 games. But yes, the Mid-First Bank Backyard Bowl, that is the number 1 pick, even though both teams are coming off a loss for only the second time in the 21 years that the game has been officially labeled or named the Backyard Bowl. So that is an interesting component of this year's game. Union is trying to avenge 2 losses against Jenks last year. You know, that has really been sticking with them, especially the semifinal loss last year when Union was up 21-0. For Jenks, they've got to bounce back after losing to Owasso last week. So we've got for the 3rd week in a row, we've got a different number 1 team in 6A1. Jenks Union also, it's a bit interesting, more so interesting than in most previous years. The fact that Union's got 5 starters who started their careers at Jenks. So you've got that into the mix. So many interesting storylines. Just it all shapes up to be a great night Friday at Union Tuttle Stadium. Jenks at Union.
There you go. And game number 2, we go to the home of the defending Class 3A state champions, Lincoln Christian, taking on Shiloh Christian, hosting Shiloh Christian, of course, a powerhouse out of Arkansas.
Yes, the most intense second half of a game I saw last year was probably the Shiloh-Lincoln game, where it was just an incredible defensive struggle, and Lincoln finally beat Shiloh. Shiloh is the only team to have defeated Lincoln during the regular season since 2018. That's pretty remarkable. Hudson Ball, the former Jenks standout, Tulsa World All-World Defensive Player of the Year in 2023. He's back in the Tulsa area for one night only as he's now at Shiloh Christian, so that's a boost for Shiloh. Both teams are 2-0. Lincoln coming off a great win last week at Heritage Hall in a rematch of last year's 3A championship game. And the game played out a lot like last year's championship game. And Shiloh was coming off a pretty exhilarating victory, too, at Little Rock Christian. So that has potential to be a blockbuster game Friday night at Lincoln.
And then game number 3, Cascia Hall at Metro Christian, the battle of private schools. Yes,
the schools, perennial state title contenders. They are only located a few miles apart, but this is our first regular season meeting since 2005. So you've got that to look forward to. They've met in the playoffs a few times since then, including 2 years ago when some guy named Kirk Francis threw for almost 400 yards and 6 touchdowns to lead Metro past Cascia. That's the first time Metro had ever beaten Cascia. In fact, it's the first time I think they even scored more than 7 points against Cascia. So Kirk Francis, of course, has a big week this week as TU hosts Oklahoma State. But Metro Christian, Cascia Hall, in that tradition, each has a really good passing quarterback. So it should be a lot of fun seeing Metro and Cascia get together.
And then game number 4, Broken Arrow at Mustang. The Tigers 1-1 in the season, but it's been a fairly impressive 1-1 record, especially after their disappointing season last year.
Yes, really solid opening effort against Springdale Harbor. And last week, they're not going to accept any moral wins, but they played the best in 7A Arkansas, Fayetteville. They went right with them all the way. Fayetteville finally prevailed by a touchdown. But I think that could be a big springboard for Broken Arrow. It should give them a confidence boost saying, you know, they now know they can play with one of the best teams at least in the 2-state area as they did last week. Although I will have to say, talking to some Broken Arrow players before the season, they're a pretty confident group anyway. This should just increase their confidence. They know they can do it. This is a very pivotal game at Mustang. It looks like an evenly matched matchup. So this will be a big win for whoever comes out on top.
And rounding out the top 5 is Tahlequah at Wagner.
Tahlequah also coming off a 3-8 season, just as Broken Arrow is. Tahlequah is 2-0. But this will be a really good gauge of how far Tahlequah has come as they play the 4A perennial powerhouse Wagner. If they can stay with Wagner, compete well with Wagner, that would be a really good, even if Tahlequah lost, that would be a really good confidence booster for the Tigers as well. So the game will be at the newly named El Condit Field Stadium at Wagner. Very well deserved for the coach of the Bulldogs. So Wagner and Tahlequah, I think Wagner should handle Tahlequah, but after last week's stunning upset with Stillwater over Union, you just never know.
That's why we play the games, right?
That's right.
All right, that wraps up the top 5 for Barry's column in the Tuesday edition of the Tulsa World, which you can also get on okprepsextra.com. You have those 5 games plus 7 bonus games, right? Honorable mention games if you check those out. And, just pick up a Tulsa World every day for the rest of the week, right? And then especially Friday and Saturday where you have all kinds of high school football coverage. And you can always go to okprepsextra.com for more coverage. Fox 23, our game of the week, of course, is the Backyard Bowl over at Union. Spencer Tillis will be live over there at 6 previewing the action. They'll have highlights after the game. We might be on a little bit late because we're starting college football on Fox on Friday nights. This Friday will be our first game. We have them every Friday through the rest of the season. So make sure you watch that game and then check out Fox 23 News right after that. And you can always get all of our high school football coverage online, fox23.com. Just click on the high school football tab. All right, hope you have a great week.